Welcome to the new mystery journal for the second half of 2025. This is just the first out of an entire 6 months worth of setups that will be finished and ready to go to a new home by the end of May. And that new home might just be with you. Hi, it's Erin. Make sure you stick around and keep watching if you'd like to win this journal for yourself. Before we dive into the setup, huge thanks to the folks at Tiefossi, both for sponsoring this video and for supplying this Moonlight Melody journal that is our mystery journal for the next 6 months. The cover of this journal looks like it's straight out of a vintage fairy tale, and the gold page edges are such a luxurious touch. This journal boasts 190 numbered pages of 160 GSM dot grid paper, which is just the way I like my bullet journals. It also has a nameplate page in the front, a back pocket for carrying as yet unstuck treasures, a pen loop, and 2 ribbon bookmarks. Tiefossi have rapidly become my favourite journal brand over the past year for their beautiful covers, strong binding, and massive page counts. I just got my hands on their new art heirloom journal in brown and it's so beautiful. Imagine this as a reading journal, how perfect. But their range of journals is expansive and ever growing, so there's something for everyone, and they have recently introduced B5 size journals into their range too, to complement their huge range of A5s and also some smaller journals too. I throw a lot of paper and stickers and tapes at the mystery journal over a short period of time when I set it up, so I need to know the journal is going to hold up to that. But after the way I filled my last 2 bullet journals, both of which were from Tiefossi, I have zero worries about this notebook being up for the task. I've opted for the navy version of the Moonlight Melody journal, but it's available in a whole range of other colours too. And I have good news, Tiefossi are currently offering 15% off store-wide for Mother's Day, but you can also use my affiliate code ErinSmith any time of year for 10% off your order. Huge thanks again to Tiefossi for sponsoring this video and supplying this journal. Now let's get stuck in and set it up. I wanted to try to do something with the initial pages here that I've never done before, and that is try to approach waterfall tabs but horizontally. So I'm going to skip the page where I'm going to put the index, I'm going to skip the cover spread, and I'm moving over to this spread first, which will end up being a calendar spread. But we're going to be jumping in between the pages a lot while I get this whole waterfall tabs but horizontal thing sorted out, because I really have never done anything like this before, and it took a lot of thinking and plotting and working out and some trial and error too. I always really enjoy when I'm working in a new notebook, trying to match the colours of the first theme to the cover of the journal. You can already see where that's going with some of the stuff that's on the desk around the journal, but we're going for a navy blue, some lighter shades of blue as well, and lots of gold. Another new thing I'm trying in this mystery journal is having a through line through all of the themes where there is something that links them all together. And for this journal, that theme is going to be magic. In some of the setups, it will be more overt than in others. Some of them will be very subtly magical, but there will be a little through line of magic in every single setup throughout this notebook. I mean, it already looks like a fairy tale storybook, so it felt like the only way to really do a journal with this kind of cover justice. If you see me using anything in this video that you like the look of and you think you might want to get your hands on it for yourself, make sure you check out the description down below. I have linked to everything that I have used that I can possibly link you to, and a few things that are no longer in stock where I got them from. I have found some alternatives that are similar that I will link you to instead. If you saw my recent JOURNALSAY haul video, the Amorphous Blob edition, as I'm calling it, you might recognize a lot of the stuff that's in here because a lot of the stuff that's in here was part of that video. In this whole horizontal waterfall tabs kind of situation, I know I'm going to be removing paper from the tops of the pages, which is a little bit trickier than removing paper from the bottoms of the pages, and the one that's on the right here is going to be the shortest of all of the pages. So where I'm placing the clouds at the moment is going to be where approximately the top of the page is. I'm going to cut along the lines of the clouds that I stick down so that there's an uneven edge, and it will reveal the page that's behind it. On the left page, where that kind of wave PET tape is, the lighter blue with the gold flecks through it, I'm going to also follow the shape of that page when I cut it off, and it's going to reveal the one underneath as well. It looks really visually impactful when it's done. I don't think it's quite as navigationally helpful as vertical waterfall tabs the traditional way, where you cut away paper from the right side of the pages rather than from the top like I'm doing here, but I do think it gives you a pretty fun effect, and it can just be fun to experiment with new journal ideas sometimes, which is why I'm doing this. I really wanted to get the shape of that page cut out so that when I flipped it over to the other side, I knew where I needed to align some of my clouds to make them sort of match up as best I can with the shape that I've already cut. Also, when I'm taking paper out of the journal really close to the binding like this, I like to leave a little bit of the edge of the page still there, and then just stick it down to the page next to it with some white washi tape just to uphold the integrity of the notebook. I do not want this to fall apart while the winner of the journal is using it over the second half of this year. If you also have this irregular edge watercolor gold gilded washi tape that's along the top here, the light blue one, beware when you're peeling it off its backing tape. It will split and it will tear, and you have to be really careful with that one. It's very fragile. The spread we're working on now is going to be the second half of the future log calendar area. We will come back and set that up properly later. I'm just working on the decoration for the top part for now to make sure that it really works and functions the way that I want it to, and we'll add all the actual planning stuff later on. So Erin, what's all this mystery journal stuff about, I hear you say? Well, this is a journal that I set up for 6 months of the year and then give away to somebody on my channel. Of course, I do also share videos about the setup process for my own bullet journal, but I am a self-employed person whose job is YouTube at this point, and that's not super relatable, I feel, so setting up my journal and watching those videos may not always be the most helpful to people who are in a more regular employment situation than me. Therefore, this journal gives me the opportunity to set up a journal for someone who's not me, to think about what they might need, what might be useful for them, and in the process come up with some alternative inspiration for you that might be more relevant to your lifestyle. I'm also in the very privileged position to receive a lot of stationery for free. It is more than one person can use, and this way I have the opportunity to use more of it. I have an extra creative outlet, and I get to give something back to somebody in my community as well, which always makes me really happy. I set up the whole journal in advance over the course of about a month to 6 weeks, and then give it away before the period that the journal covers actually starts so that the winner has the opportunity to really use it if they want to. That also means I have 6 months worth of monthly setup videos in the can already, which makes making video content easier for me as well, so it's kind of a win-win. This will be the 4th mystery journal that I have set up and given away, and I'm very excited to see how this one comes together. I hope you enjoy the process. I've laid 2 of those tapes together on the back of this flap so that when I cut away this part of the paper following the line of the tape on this side, there'll still be something on the other side that sort of resembles it. You obviously can't match this up with the design exactly in the opposite direction, so this was kind of the best workaround that I could find. You'll see when we flip back to the other side how it's come together. I am going to need to rob some tape from another part just to fill in a little gap, but I think it actually looks pretty good. You'll see it in a sec. Because I brought the tape all the way to the binding, there's a little bit still stuck there on the piece of page that I plan to keep there to keep the integrity of the binding. So I just have to get that off, and it's a struggle right now. That one didn't want to come off, but this is kind of how it's looking. It's coming together. I just need to fill in that little gap that's on the right side there. But what's going to go under that flap? This paper I have used in my journal before in September, in my own bullet journal last year. This is just wrapping paper from my local dollar shop, and it has really served me well. It's a beautiful kind of bronzy gold. I wanted it to really contrast with all of the blue that I've got elsewhere on the pages so far, so this seemed like a good way to do it. So I'm just going to add a torn edge to that. I'll stick it down on the left side here at the top of the page, and then we'll flip past all of those little flaps that I've made and we'll add it to the top of that last page as well. But first I'm going to completely repeat the process of what I did for this wave page, the second one, on the other side. Can you see the vision coming together? Because I think I can finally see it. I feel like when you flip forward through them like this, it's really starting to make sense, but we need to add the bronze over on this right side as well. That was a bit of a mission, not gonna lie, but I'm really happy with how it came together. Now I can move on to actually doing some functional things. I'm actually gonna start with the calendar pages this time, the future log, rather than going back to the cover spread first, because I feel like these are most of the way done already, so let's just finish these ones up and then move backwards. I'm going with 2 months to a page here, so 4 months to a spread. Since this journal will be covering from July through to December, that means these 4 will be July, August, September, and October. The following spread will have the same setup, except on the right page I'm going to include January and February for 2026 as well. Partly because it just helps to fill in the space in a really nice way, but also partly because sometimes I find it's helpful to have those in a journal so that you can do some planning for next year without having to set up your journal for next year really early. I used to work in a job that required me to book things sometimes up to 2 years in advance, so I find having stuff that allows me to do that in a journal really helpful, even if it is only 2 months in advance. I went ahead and made stickers for all of my headers for this setup with my Cricut. I really wanted to use a very magical feeling font, so I chose this one that's called Illumina, and I knew if I tried to do it by hand it would take me forever, so this was a way to speed up the process. All of that negative space is here to serve as planning space, but it did feel a little too empty, so I'm jumping in with the 491 Tombow, which is Glacier Blue, and I'm adding a second line highlight right next to the calendars for the planning to take place on top. And then we can do all of this again, the tiny calendars, the highlights, the headers, on the next spread. That's both of the future log spreads done, so now let's flip back to this one and set up this cover spread. This gorgeous clear PET tape with the gold gilding on it is so beautiful. It's perfect for a celestial kind of magical witchy theme. I was actually given this in my channel members' Secret Santa that we ran through my Discord last year, and I don't know where it's from originally. I tried a reverse Google image search and I could only find one Japanese website that stocked it. So the link in the description is to a similar tape that's from JOURNALSAY that's more of a holographic kind of feeling than this one, but if you know where I can get that tape, I used almost all of it in this setup and I kind of am sad to have it leave my collection, so let me know if you know where else I can get it. I would like to repurchase. I actually don't have a quote in mind for our cover spread this time. That's something I would usually do, but I really wanted to just fill the spread with lots of little nebulas and blobs and bursts, and then layer the lettering that I've printed out for the 2025 and the phase 2, I'm calling it, for the second half of the year, right on top so that this looks really full and vibrant and magical and maybe a little bit chaotic on purpose. What's great about my range of amorphous blob stickers that I have now is that some of them have a greater visual weight. They're darker, they catch your eye a little bit more. Some of them have a much lighter visual weight, like the ones in the middle there. They're kind of soft, they don't have that much contrast, they don't grab your eye as much, and that variety really helps to keep a page that's busy from feeling overwhelming. I wanted the 2025 to be really quite large and striking and bold, so I made it pretty big, and I've used a font called Westminster Gotiche. It's a fun black letter kind of a thing. It's very ornate when you use it for text, but for numbers, you can get away with it. Although I do think I made the white space on the sticker a little bit too big. I probably could have brought that in a little bit, the offset, but that's all right, it's done now. From here, I'm just going to keep adding things to the page until I'm happy with the way it looks. We do have a decent amount of contrast going on here with all of these different elements, especially with this navy and almost black but not quite tape that I'm adding at the bottom now, but I feel like the black is a little too stark across the numbers there, so I'm just going to grab some gel pens, a blue and a gold. I can't always tell the gold from the yellow, so I have to give them a little swatch, and I'm just going to fill in some of the thicker areas on the numbers with the gel pens. These are metallic, so they're very shiny. You really can't see it on camera here, but once it's all down on the page, I'll hold it up and shine it around a little bit so you can really see. It's so funny on camera here, it looks like basically nothing, but the effect it made was so actually impactful. I really like the way it just lifts these letters and gives them some dimension and ties them into the theme because we don't really have black anywhere else. Look at that shiny, it's so good. Anyway, back to sticking stuff to the page. Now that these first 3 spreads are complete, I think you can finally really get the effect of these horizontal waterfall tabs, and I'm so happy with how they came out. I think I could probably improve on them in the future now that I've done it once, but you've got to start somewhere, right? I thought I would add a little magical spin to the names of some of the pages that I'm including in this journal too. So ordinarily this one would be the goals page, and it will still function as such. I've divided it into 3 little sections so the winner can divide their goals up by category if they want to, and if not, they can make it some long form goal setting or just a single list or whatever they prefer, but I'm not calling it goals. I'm calling this one manifesting because it sounds a little bit more magical. I think the idea of manifestation is a nice one, and it has some merit in that it's good to imagine achieving good things for yourself, but I don't know if I believe in the I thought about this and it happened because of that kind of system of manifestation. But I do think goal setting is good, and working towards your goals is a way to make them manifest, so that's why I'm going with manifesting for the title of this page. The facing page is a new one for me, but I know it's something that has been done in the bullet journal community many times. This one is a letter to myself. I haven't changed the name of this one at all because I think that's already pretty powerful in itself. But just in case you haven't come across this concept before, it's where you pop a little letter to your future self in the journal that you will read once your time in the journal has finished. So I'm sticking an envelope down here. This is just a craft paper one that I had kicking around from some cards in the past, I think. And I'm going to pop a little sheet of paper in there so that the winner of this journal can write a letter to themselves that they can look back on at the very end of 2025 and see what message past them had for current them. This is an A5 journal, so the envelope does take up most of the page on its own, but that's okay because we can just add decorations directly onto the envelope and it's still going to kind of work with the theme. Anytime you're sticking anything that's a little bit transparent over the top of craft paper though, it is going to tint the color of the paper a little bit, so we've got some slightly warmer toned blue going on there. I'm entirely okay with that. I think the colors still match well enough that it's obvious that this all goes together. However, I don't currently own any letter writing sets that work with this color scheme, so I'm going to be adding a little piece of paper in there from a William Morris writing set that I have that is green. It's not the perfect match to this color theme, but it is the best that I could do, and once it's concealed within the envelope, does it really matter anyway? So it does have some blue tones to the green. It's not entirely outside of the realm of possibility of matching, but we're just going to work with what we've got. Apparently I'm really in the mood to remove paper from the journal at this stage of the year because I am making a little Dutch door, I guess. This one I'm removing paper from the right side and the top and the bottom to make this kind of mini page in between here, this little flap that can flip to the left and the right. But overall, these 2 spreads together are going to be the cash flow tracker or finance log. I personally really enjoy keeping track of my finances in a journal. In fact, I have a whole journal just dedicated to that explicit purpose. So of course, when I'm setting up a journal for another mystery person, I want to make sure that they have the opportunity to track their finances as well. I'm going to start by adding all of the pretty stuff to the spread this time around, and then we'll jump in and do the functional stuff later, and I will explain that as it happens, but for now, we decorate. My thinking here is that the first spread, the full page on the left and the smaller page on the right, can be about money coming in and savings and that kind of thing. And then once you flip the baby page over to the left, you'll have that, and then the full right page for money going out, so spending and regular bills. And when it comes to finances, I never think it hurts to have a goal set for your savings as well, whether you're saving for a specific purpose or just saving to have a little nest egg of money in case of an emergency or something like that. So our first page is actually going to be, again, about goals, but specifically about money goals this time. That's pretty personal from one person to the next, so I've left it pretty flexible and open. It's just a space with some second line highlights, so much like the previous overall life goals pages, the manifesting page, you can use this in a long form way, you can make a list, you can divide it into categories if you like. Whatever works best for you is a good way to use the goals page on the finances spread. On the facing side here, this is the savings tracker, so the idea here is that you check in once every month and keep note of how much your savings have grown. Then at the end of the year, you can look back and work out what the average amount was that you saved from one month to the next. See the moment there where I realized I forgot October? There's always something in every setup. Not to worry, white sticker paper to the rescue, I will fix that. You'll also be able to look back at your opening balance and compare it to your closing balance and see how much you saved overall. And you can make this recording date whenever you like. I usually record mine on the first day of the following month, so my July amount I would write down on the 1st of August. Some folks might prefer to do it on the 1st of the month, so the 1st of July, the 1st of August, so on and so forth for their information. Other people might prefer to do it mid-month. I don't know, totally up to you. So that's the incoming and the savings side of the finances done. Now we're moving on to the expenses side, and this one's going to be a little bit more like a traditional spreadsheet, but in kind of two tables. So there'll be a top table for your actual spending, anything you want to keep track of throughout one month to the next. By category, this is where those can go in, and there will be a spending tracker in each individual monthly setup too, so that this is made a bit more easy to keep track of. That's the top table there, so each of those columns will represent a different spending category. Things like your life expenses like rent or mortgage repayments might have their own column there. You might have one for dining out if you go out to eat a lot and you want to keep track of how much money you spend on that. Each of the horizontals, the Jason D down the side there, is for the month, so July, August, September, October, November, December. If you have never noticed the Jason in the calendar before, congratulations, you learned a cool new thing today. I knew it was there, and I knew when this whole journal was supposed to be for, but I still wrote January in the first column on the bottom one, so I can be a bit silly sometimes. But the bottom table is for keeping track of bills, so any bills that are going to come out of your accounts in July go in the July column, likewise for August, so on and so forth. Some of these might be annual recurring bills that you just need the reminder of when the month is coming up, and some of them might be things that you pay every month and you just want to make sure that they're noted down somewhere. Never hurts, we've got a whole section just for bills. I like to highlight the heading sections of these tables so it's really clear where the totals will go and everything like that, and then we can turn the page and move on to the tracker spread. This one I'm going to mess up quite a bit. A little bit of foreshadowing for you there. I guess I went into autopilot, and when I first set up these trackers on the page that I'm going to draw out in a moment, I set them up as though they were for a single month rather than for the entire second half of the year. So I had to get a bit creative and adapt them to fit with kind of a year in pixels kind of situation, which is what I thought I was doing when I drew them out to start with. Sometimes your brain just switches off, and I think it is more likely to do that mid-year like this. So my apologies for having to finagle this into something that works. Don't worry, I worked it out. I did have to kind of go away and sleep on it though and have a think about how I would change this, so we're going to set it up as 2 trackers to start with in a way that doesn't really make sense, and then I'm going to realize that that's wrong once I've drawn the entire second table down there. We're going to adapt it to fit enough space for all of the months that actually are in the second half of the year, and then we're going to cover the rest of the bottom table so that it's not visible anymore, so it's not messing up the dynamic, and just cover it with some pretty stuff, because white sticker paper can forgive a multitude of sins. What I was going for here is 6 rows, each to represent a different month for the rest of the year, and 31 spaces along the top, so that any month throughout the rest of the year can fit into those spaces. For whatever reason, I instead set up 2 tables with 5 rows instead of 6, but it's okay, we can save this. And it is giving me plenty of opportunity now to use lots of pretty on the page, which is always something to be celebrated. Usually when I'm working in a theme like this, I try not to introduce a new element this far in, but I'm going to break my own rule here. I'm going to use my letter stamps to add the initial for each day of the week down the left side of this table, and I'm using an Artistro brush tip paint marker to add the ink to my stamps for this because I really wanted to bring in that blue. I didn't want to go with black, and the brush tip on those makes them really easy to work with to colour in a stamp. I actually don't feel like they look out of place with the theme at all, even though I haven't used them anywhere else in the setup. And I think that's because a little serif font just is a classic and looks right at home pretty much anywhere. I've decided to add in a vertical line for each of these days of the month so that they're really clear and distinct from each other, and then I'm going to need to sort of go away and think about it for a bit, so we're going to leave this spread once I've got the numbers along the top of the table here. We're going to leave it where it is and come back to it at the end. Let's turn the page and move on to what I think might be my favorite spread of this setup, at least as far as functionality. I think this one is going to be so much fun for the winner to use. This is a self-care bingo board, or it's going to be once we've got some decoration down on the page. And in truth, most of the prompts are pretty standard self-care bingo prompts, but, oh, I forgot to put the heading on the tracker page. Let's just go back and slap that down before we continue. But rather than just a typical bingo, I wanted this one to have that magical vibe, so I've changed the wording of some of the prompts, most of the prompts actually, just to make them sound like a little bit more of a witchy woo-woo ritual practice rather than the extremely basic self-care task that they really are. But then I was worried that they wouldn't be really clear for the winner of the journal or for anyone watching, so I also made sort of an instructional reference sheet to go on the facing page so that if you didn't know what the heck I meant, you could kind of refer to that and find out how you could interpret that prompt. You could also choose to ignore my interpretations and use them however you prefer. I'm adding my decoration along the top and bottom of the pages this time, making kind of a bookend situation, and I'm just layering some marbled paper with some of this wavy texture that we've used earlier. This transparent PET tape is really fun because you can layer it with things and have that little peek through of what's underneath, and it just looks so beautiful. But like I mentioned earlier, it's really fragile, so you have to be very careful about how you peel it up. This is my list of interpretations for the prompts. I wanted to make sure I had a little bit of something peeking out from behind it before I stick it down, but also when I do stick it down, it's really difficult with larger sheets like this. If you didn't line it up at the top with the backing kind of somewhat still attached and you have any part of it touch the page a little bit by accident, it kind of ends up just not being able to be peeled back up. So I've had to accept the slight wonkiness of this and just roll with it. Unfortunately, there was no way I was peeling that back up without ruining the page underneath. But let's just see it as accept the things you cannot change as a little mindfulness prompt and carry on with our lives, shall we? Setting up a bingo board in a journal is actually really easy. This one's A5 and I've made each of the bingo board spaces 4 dot grid spaces wide by 4 dot grid spaces tall. Very similar to a calendar, except that you just do 5 rows and 5 columns and you're good to go. And while I'm writing out all of these bingo prompts in the spaces, I thought I'd talk you through what they are and what they kind of mean in case you're interested in adopting some for yourself. We've got brew a cup, which can be your favorite tea or coffee or hot chocolate. Dance in the dark like nobody's watching. Cleanse your space means to tidy up an area. Read the runes means to finish a book. Start a ritual means picking up a new habit or routine. To watch the skies means to enjoy a sunrise or sunset. Fulfill a task is to tackle a long-term to-do list item. Wander your realm means to go for a walk. Dote on your familiar means to spend time with your pet. Light a fire, you can burn a candle or a fireplace if you have one. Stir the cauldron is to cook a nourishing meal. Mark the seasons is to update your calendar spread. I've left the middle box blank for a free space, but I'm going to put a stamp in there. Honor your grimoire is to journal your feelings. Choose rest is pretty self-explanatory, I think. Name your magics is to journal about your strengths. Summon your strength means to stretch or exercise. Weave a song spell means to just sing your heart out in the car or whatever. Make a potion can be a cocktail, a mocktail, or a smoothie. Banish the fog means to make a brain dump on the page. Honor your coven is to spend time with friends. Hone your craft is to practice a hobby. Dress for power is to wear something you love. Observe the moon means to enjoy the night sky. And forsake technology means no phone for a day. I just thought they were a bit cute and I really enjoyed setting that bingo up. And just in case you really like it too, I've actually made that one available as a free printable download for my channel members. So if you are a member of my channel, you can download that one from the posts tab. There's a link over on the posts tab on my channel. And if you aren't a member of my channel but you're interested in that, you can check out the different tiers at the join button down below or the QR code that's on the screen. We have 2 new spreads to set up for this video and they are both going to be blank but decorated. So because this journal is not for me, I always like to include some decorated pages that they can add any extra trackers or anything else they'd like to include that maybe I didn't consider. We're all different, we all have different needs out of our journals, so it's good to have that flexibility baked in. And if it happens that they don't need any extra spreads, I am also sending some of the extra stickers and washi tape pieces and bits of paper along with the journal so that they can make a junk journal spread with those pieces or add a quote page or whatever they would like. So how do you actually enter the giveaway? There is a link in the description to a Google form that you will need to fill out. It will ask for your email address, it will ask for your name, and it will ask you to answer a question. And that question is, what does magic mean to you? There's also a field to add in your Instagram handle if you have Instagram. That's just so I have another way of getting in contact with you in case my email goes to your spam, because I will be contacting the winner by email from the email address collab@erinsmithart.com.au. Do not trust emails from any address that is not that one, because that is the only one that I will use. I'll be drawing the winner of the mystery journal on the 31st of May, Brisbane time, which might be the 30th of May where you are, depending on where you are in the world. And I will, as I mentioned, email the winner to let them know and also make a post on my posts tab to announce it too. The rest of the setups in this journal will be a mystery to you until the setup videos come out month to month, or unless you are the winner of this journal, or if you are one of my channel members, because I will be sharing little sneaky previews in my Discord server with them. And my Jubilant Journals and Page Mages level channel members actually helped me come up with all of the themes for this journal too in a live stream, which is already on my channel, but you can't watch it unless you're a channel member on the Jubilant Journals or Page Mages levels. So go fill out the form that is linked in the description, and that is how you enter to win this journal. Simple as that. You can also check out the playlists from the previous mystery journals in case you want to get an idea of what sort of things I tend to include. Each one is a little bit different though, so just keep that in mind. There are a few little details I wanted to add throughout. I definitely wanted to add some colour to the crystal ball that's in the centre of the bingo board. We need to go back to the tracker spread and make sure that it's ready to work and actually function. And I actually left a page way back at the beginning blank for an index and forgot about it, so we need to go back and do that too. Look at the sparkle on the disco ball. Disco ball? Crystal ball. Same. I've decided to split each of my months into 2 rows here so that if the winner wants to track 2 habits really consistently over the course of the whole 6 months of the journal, they can do that. I'm also going to white out the edges of the months that don't actually have 31 days so that it's really obvious that that's what they are. But doing this made it a little less clear where one month ended and the next one started. So I'm just going to thicken up the lines in between each one so it's really obvious where everything is supposed to sit. I'm also going to add a space for a little key over on the left side next to the initial for each of the months, just so that if there is a level of nuance involved in things that the winner wants to track with this tracker, then they can color code something there. We did it, we saved the tracker, it works again. And we're going to flip back all the way to this first page now and also add the index, because this journal has numbered pages, so if you have the opportunity to include an index, it's better to have it and not use it than not have one and wish that you had it, you know? It's also going to give me an opportunity to use up some of my tiny stickers, because I had lots of those involved in this setup, and I have many of them still left on their sticker rolls, so it's nice to have a little area to add those. They're going to go on either side of this setup, down the left and right sides in those little columns that are left blank, but of course we'll have some pretty at the top and at the bottom too. This index looks like it's one table, but it's actually 2. They're just right next to each other, and they both only have 2 columns. There is the column for the topic of the page, and there is a column for the page number, and they're just next to each other to make it possible to use more of the space. For some reason, I drew one of those lines all the way to the edge of the page instead of just to the edge of the table. That was a bit silly of me, but we'll cover it with a sticker and pretend it didn't happen. And with the index page complete, that means this first setup in the mystery journal is also complete, and the giveaway for this journal is now open. Let's have a flip through and see how it looks from start to finish so far. I can't wait for you to see everything I have planned for this journal. I have been cooking this one up for a while, so I think it's going to turn out really cool and definitely a little bit magical. I will be hard at work on the rest of the monthly setups in this journal throughout the rest of May, so it will be completely finished and ready to go to its winner in early June, so that they will have it before July hits. It's always a bit of an adventure setting up a journal that's for a mysterious person, but I really enjoy the challenge of it, and I hope that wherever this journal ends up in the world, it brings its winner a little bit of magic every day. Big thanks once again to Tiefossi for supplying the journal that I'm using here and sponsoring this video. Don't forget to check out their website for their full range. They have so many gorgeous notebooks. And don't forget to enter the giveaway if you would like this journal for yourself. I'm off to fill up the rest of these spreads. Some of them you can see are already designated to specific purposes. But just in case you're keen to keep watching, here is a link to a playlist of all of my previous mystery journal setups from 2025. And underneath that is a link to a video that YouTube thinks you will enjoy.